The Book of Revelation. Was it a vision or a warning? Imagine this. A Christian leader named John is exiled to the desolate island of Patmos. It was meant to be a punishment, a way to silence him. But in that isolation, he receives a vision that would become the most debated, most controversial book in the entire Bible. Revelation. For centuries, we've read it as a terrifying roadmap to the end of the world. But what if that's not the whole story? What if the monstrous beasts, the plagues, and the cryptic numbers weren't a crystal ball for our distant future, but a coded warning to first-century Christians about the imminent collapse of the most powerful empire on earth? Rome? That's the core question here. Is Revelation a glimpse into humanity's final days? Or is it an urgent, coded letter written for a specific group of people at a specific moment in history? The answer changes everything. Section 1. The World of John the Revelator. To really get the message, you have to understand the world it came from. The Book of Revelation wasn't written in a vacuum. Most scholars believe it was put to paper around 95 AD during the reign of the Roman Emperor Domitian. This was a tough time for early Christians. They were a tiny minority in a massive empire that demanded total loyalty, not just to the state, but to the emperor himself, who was often worshipped as a god. The author, John, was a church leader, probably based in Ephesus before he was banished to Patmos for his faith. From that island, he's writing to 7 real churches in Asia Minor, which is now modern-day Turkey. These aren't just symbols. They were actual communities in places like Ephesus, Smyrna, and Laodicea, and each one was facing its own set of problems. Some were getting praise for staying strong under persecution, while others were getting called out for getting a little too cozy with the Roman culture around them. Now John was writing in a style that seems wild to us today, but was common in ancient Jewish literature, an apocalypse. And the word apocalypse doesn't actually mean the end of the world. It's Greek for an unveiling or a revelation. Apocalyptic writing used vivid, symbolic imagery to pull back the curtain on reality and show what was really going on from God's point of view. It was a genre born from suffering, meant to give hope to the oppressed and promise them that, despite how things looked, God was in control and justice was coming. So when John's first readers heard about beasts rising from the sea and battles in the heavens, they wouldn't have necessarily grabbed their go-bags. They would have understood he was using the symbolic language of their scriptures to make sense of the crisis they were living through. Section 2. The Case for a Coded Warning. When you start reading Revelation through the eyes of a first-century Christian trying to survive under Roman rule, the bizarre symbols suddenly snap into focus. The book itself gives us a huge clue. It says over and over that these events will happen soon, and that the time is near. For the original audience, soon meant, well, soon. Not 2,000 years down the road. This strongly suggests the book is about their immediate reality. This perspective, often called the preterist view, argues that most of the events in Revelation were fulfilled in the first century. The clues are everywhere. Let's take the main villain. The beast. This thing is described with 7 heads, which John himself tells us are 7 hills. In the ancient world, what city was famous for being built on 7 hills? Rome. The beast is also given a number 666. Using a common Jewish practice called gematria, where letters are assigned a number value, 666 can literally spell out Nero Caesar, the infamous emperor who brutally persecuted Christians. Then there's the great enemy city, Babylon the Great. John describes a rich, arrogant, and powerful city that is drunk with the blood of the saints. For a Jewish writer like John, Babylon was the ultimate symbol of a godless empire that had destroyed Jerusalem centuries earlier. In his day, Rome was the new Babylon, the superpower persecuting God's people. Even the terrifying plagues, the 7 seals, trumpets, and bowls, make more sense this way. Their structure deliberately echoes the plagues God sent on Egypt in the Old Testament. It was a way of framing Rome as the new Egypt, the new big bad oppressor. The visions of war, famine, and disease weren't just a far-off horror story. They were a divine promise that the very tools Rome used to control the world would be the cause of its own undoing. If this video is helping you make sense of the complex world of Revelation, and maybe making it a little less intimidating, do us a favor and hit that like button. It really helps us bring these ancient stories to light. Section 3. The Case for a Future Prophecy. Of course, for most of history, Revelation has been read in a completely different way. This is the futurist view, which sees the book as a prophecy of events still to come. This is the interpretation that has fueled countless books, movies, and end times predictions. And you can see why. The language in Revelation is so epic, so cosmic, that it feels like it just can't be contained by one historical event. Visions of a third of the stars falling from the sky, the sun going dark, and every mountain and island being shaken loose sound a lot more like final, global events than a regional conflict in the 1st century. From this perspective, the beast and the false prophet aren't Rome and Nero, but a future global dictator and his religious sidekick who will one day demand the world's worship. The mark of the beast isn't a symbolic nod to the emperor cult, but a literal mark people will need to buy or sell in a future totalitarian world. Futurists also point to the letters to the 7 churches. They see them not just as letters to real congregations, but as symbols for 7 different eras of church history, leading all the way up to the final period we're in now. And the book's grand finale, Christ's second coming, the final battle, the 1,000-year reign, and the creation of a new heaven and a new earth, clearly points to a conclusion of history that hasn't happened yet. This view gives believers a way to understand current events and a sense of hope for Christ's return. Section 4. Vision or warning. Why not both? So, which is it? Is Revelation a coded history of the Roman Empire, or a detailed script for the end of the world? The truth is, it's probably not a simple either-or. The richest way to read Revelation is to see that it had an original meaning and has a timeless meaning. Its primary job was absolutely to be a letter of warning and hope to those 7 churches. It was pastoral care, written to tell them, don't be afraid of Rome. Don't compromise with its culture of idolatry. Stay faithful, because that empire that seems all-powerful has already been judged, and its downfall is certain. The great unveiling was that Jesus, the slain Lamb, was the true king of history, not Caesar. But the reason this book still speaks to us so powerfully is that it reveals a timeless pattern of how God deals with human evil. The principles are universal. Revelation shows us God's heart for the oppressed and his judgment against any human system, any Babylon, that is built on pride, idolatry, and injustice. The fall of the historical Babylon of Rome becomes a stand-in for the inevitable fall of every corrupt system of power. So the book was a specific warning and a universal vision. It warned the 1st century church about the beast of the Roman Empire, while also giving every generation since a way to identify and resist the spirit of the beast, whenever and wherever it rears its ugly head. Conclusion. In the end, maybe the biggest misconception about Revelation is that it's a puzzle for us to solve just to satisfy our curiosity about the future. Its purpose was never to terrify, but to comfort. It was written to strengthen the faith of a people who were suffering. It unveiled the truth that their pain wasn't pointless, and their faithfulness, even if it led to death, mattered. It promised them that no matter how big and scary the Roman Empire looked, God's kingdom would win. So maybe the question Revelation leaves us with isn't just, what does this predict? But rather, what does this reveal? What does it reveal about power, about compromise, and about the stubborn hope that justice will, in the end, prevail? Perhaps the warning wasn't just for them, and the vision of God's final victory is a promise that still gives hope to the suffering and challenges the comfortable today. What do you think?